Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to today's Safer Sim webinar. And today we are going to listen to a presentation from Ashley McDonald and Dan McGehee, and they are going to discuss their Safer Sim education project that focuses on advanced vehicle technology simulation and the research outreach to STEM programs. So I will let Ashley take over from here.
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. If you can't, just let me know. Thank you, Jacob, for that introduction. I do have Dan McGehee on the line as well. So, Dan, feel free to jump in throughout the presentation. Dan does need to scoot out just a little bit early, so he might not be here towards the tail end. But what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is our Safer Sim project, which actually served as part of a larger effort called the My Card Is What campaign. It's a national education campaign that is dedicated to educating the public about advanced vehicle safety technologies, ADAS systems, and delivering content to the driving public in a clear, concise manner. So I will start the presentation with just a background of My Card Is What, just to set up the stage for what My Card Is what My Card Does What is, and then I'll get into how our Safer Sim mobile museum project fit into that. So my name is Ashley McDonald. I am a project manager at the National Advanced Driving Simulator. I am excited to say that I have been around since the birth of My Card Is What. We've come quite a long way. So I am going to go ahead and jump into the campaign right now, and we'll get to Safer Sim a little bit later. So what is My Card Is What? Ultimately, it's all about reducing driver error and making our roads safer. About 3 years ago now, the University of Iowa was the recipient of 3 very large grants. One was a consumer survey that was dedicated to understanding what consumers know about advanced vehicle safety technologies, measuring how they want to receive information about them, and just baselining what the overall attitude about the technologies were by the driving public. The second project, or the second grant that we received, was basic research about the safety technologies. And then finally, the third one was a national education campaign that was dedicated to delivering content to the driving public about the technologies. My Card Is What was funded by the Toyota economic loss settlement that occurred a few years ago. My Card Is What is a research-driven national education campaign that, like I've said earlier, is to help educate drivers on new safety technologies. And it is housed by the University of Iowa, and we did work in partnership with the National Safety Council. The overall funding mechanism was actually part of a broader program that also funded various research projects at MIT, Stanford, Michigan, and TTI. I will say before I move on that My Card Is What is fully data-driven. Every aspect of our campaign that you guys are going to see does rely on some data. The very early data was that national consumer survey, but everything from our videos to our name to our website to any type of content delivery that we have does have data behind it. So this is just a quick slide on the team. Like I said, My Card Is What. It is the University of Iowa's. It is housed by the University of Iowa, but we do work very closely with the National Safety Council. They are our partner. Given their unique experience in workplace, home, and the community safety sort of realm, the University of Iowa picked them as a very important media partner. So they have played a significant role in the development of our content, of our videos, of our website, and it's very much a partnership between the University of Iowa and the National Safety Council. Iowa is a recognized leader in human factors and transportation research, hence why we were the overall recipients for the National Education Campaign. So I'll get into a little bit of the basis of some of the background data that led up to our campaign and before we actually launched. So as we all know, 94% of crashes are caused by some sort of human error. Our roads continue to be one of the most dangerous places in the country, and the reason for this is well understood. We understand that there is human factors component to why our roads are so unsafe. Hence where we believe that the education comes in. The National Safety Council and the University of Iowa work together to help drivers bridge that knowledge gap in what is going on in their cars, specifically around the technologies that can actually make driving safer and our roadways safer. So we've come a very long way in the technologies that are in our vehicles today. So we've gone from technologies on the left side of your screen that really are there to serve when a collision is happening or has happened, to technologies that can actually prevent the crash from occurring altogether. But as we know, the technologies on the right side of the screen have come on very quickly, and there's a lot of differences about these technologies from one make and model to the next. So we really wanted to understand what the consumer knows about these nuances and these technologies, just to make sure that what they know is translating into the vehicle appropriately. So how did we do this? Before we started My Card Is What, we had the large survey, the National Consumer Survey of Driving Safety Technologies. That was in 2014, and it is a biannual survey that can serve as a longitudinal representation of the consumer knowledge. We had 2,015 completions, and it did represent the average driver on the road, so a nationally representative data set. What did we find? So we were measuring, like I said, baseline knowledge of consumers' knowledge and attitude and experience with several ADAS technologies. This was 2 years ago, so a few technologies were not included that are as prevalent today, like AEB. But we did have everything from technologies that have been standard for many, many years, such as anti-lock braking and electronic stability control, to adaptive cruise control, forward collision warning, lane departure warning, and backup camera. The question that you're seeing on the right is one of the examples of the type of questions that we had to gauge consumer knowledge. So it gave a very basic question on how you would effectively engage with the technology. In this scenario, it's anti-lock braking system. So I'll give you guys just a minute just to read that question, and then keep your answer in mind for me. Okay. So what did the research tell us? Well, like I said earlier, we were measuring a few different things in that National Consumer Survey. One of the things was just general exposure to the technologies. We did know that some of these technologies, such as adaptive cruise control, forward collision warning, lane departure warning, they have come on in the last few years, at least back in 2014, or were making more striking market penetration than previously. So what it told us so far is that consumers generally had exposure to all of the technologies. Of course, your cruise control, your anti-lock braking, traction control, and even backup camera had a bit higher exposure levels, but we did still see exposure among blind spot alert, adaptive cruise control, forward collision warning, and lane departure warning. And this exposure question was not only getting to if they'd actually experienced the technology themselves, but if they'd heard about it, if they'd maybe seen it from a passenger side, seen on a commercial, any sort of level to just measure exposure, to get an understanding of what the context was that the consumer was at least hearing about or being informed of these technologies. So what was the bottom line that we found? So going back to that question that I had on the screen about anti-lock braking system, we did ask consumers a question for each technology that was to measure knowledge. So that one that I had on screen about anti-lock braking, that was the example for ABS. And with that one specifically, we had 25% of our nationally represented data set that answered "I don't know" to that question, as in they didn't know what the correct response was. And it was very surprising to us, as that technology has been around and been fairly standard in vehicles for years. So you take that and you apply that to technologies that are coming into vehicles very quickly and may be a little bit different from one vehicle to the next. We found that while our consumers did have exposure to all of the technologies, there was significant uncertainty about all of them. And just to give you guys a little flavor of some of the other data from that National Consumer Survey, tire pressure symbol, the symbol on the right side, the tire pressure symbol, 45% of our consumers did not know what that was or didn't know what that was trying to communicate. Adaptive cruise control, we asked a situational awareness on how you would effectively engage with the system, basically getting the fact that it measures or that it keeps your speed as well as a time interval. 65% of our respondents didn't know that one, and then 32% of our respondents didn't have any clue as to blind spot alert system as well. We also wanted to understand, before we jumped into our national education campaign, how do our consumers want information about their vehicle and about vehicle safety technologies? Not surprisingly, back in 2014, 57% of our consumers did say that Google or a search engine method would have been their preferred choice to seek information. Then 52% did say a local mechanic. And then down the list, we did give consumers the opportunity to select more than one. We did have 49% of our respondents say that they would look at their owner's manual. We took it another step further, and we wanted to find out how many of our respondents had ever experienced a time in their vehicle where something just happened that they weren't quite expecting, or maybe their vehicle startled them or acted in a manner that they weren't expecting. 40% of our respondents said, yeah, I have had a situation where something happened and I wasn't ready for it, or I didn't know what it was. We took that a step further and we said, okay, from that experience, did you guys seek information about why the vehicle behaved the way it did? And 33% of that 40% said, yeah, I did go look for information to try to find out what was going on. So that told us, from the perspective as we were getting ready to launch our campaign, that we had to combat that people may not be looking for information around their vehicle all the time. We also had some qualitative data to back up this as well as we were preparing for our campaign. And we found that a lot of respondents in our qualitative data and focus groups frankly just didn't think they were the problem on the road, and that it was the driver behind them that was the problem, or they didn't really think of anything as problematic with their vehicle, and really only they would seek information around the check engine light or that sort of thing. So what was our solution? After we've collected all this data, we've got a gauge on the national public, we were ready to develop a national education campaign. So after pretty significant focus group testing, market testing, we came up with the name mycardoeswhat.org, the tagline, "No More, Drive Safer." And I'm going to transition a bit to now the national education campaign and some of the assets of the campaign itself. So the campaign is dedicated to advanced driver assistance systems. We have over 30 technologies on our website. I do challenge you to go ahead and check out our website if you haven't yet. We have a pretty strict perspective that we take, in that we want to deliver information to the consumer on a concept basis on the very front end, so that if a consumer does have a question about a technology, they can find it in a very quick, concise manner, but they have the freedom to dig deeper and get as much or as little information about that technology as they want. So the program and campaign goals. The first program goal is to raise awareness of the safety technologies, specifically to drivers who are driving without them, in addition to those that are driving with them, but to just raise general awareness. Secondly, drive consumers to mycardoeswhat.org to learn more about the safety technologies. And finally, increase engagement with the website, games, and apps. So this takes a step beyond your normal touch of getting eyes on the website, eyes on our games, eyes on our apps. This is taking it a step further and making sure that our consumers are getting something out of it, and that maybe they're commenting back or they're responding to us or to some of the media that we've pushed out. So what does it all mean? We've got all of these different icons on the screen here, and this can be somewhat overwhelming to the consumer. You've got some of these icons that are very intuitive, and then some that may not be so much. So we wanted to make sure that all of this translated to the consumer and a mental model, in supporting the development of a mental model that would be approachable in a friendly way. Car manuals do contain information about these features, but the technical jargon in there can be somewhat discouraging. 65% of us are visual learners, and we understand what we can see. So we wanted to make sure that the icons that are most generally, if they weren't standard, then they were most generally in the vehicles, we wanted to make sure that the consumer would make that connection when they were on our website. So what are some of the challenges that we had as we were embarking on this campaign and developing our content? One of the big things was the safety technologies have different names and a different flavor from one brand to the next, so that each manufacturer can put their flavor or twist on that technology. So that was a challenge itself, because we wanted to make sure that when we were educating people about these technologies, that they recognize that, oh, that is backup camera, or that is adaptive cruise control. I'll give you adaptive cruise control for an example. We found, I think, over 27 different versions of adaptive cruise control that included the words dynamic, radar, intelligent, smart. So that was one of the challenges that we found right away. We also found that the safety technologies had slightly different capabilities across the manufacturers, even within trim levels and across time, certainly. The adaptive cruise control that we have today is much different than the adaptive cruise control that we might have seen 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. And then the third one was the safety technology limitations may not be intuitive or obvious. For example, there's some technologies that they operate very distinctly with the camera, and sometimes the sun glare will cause that camera not to operate effectively, and that's not exactly intuitive to the driver or even communicated to the driver when that technology is not working. And then the warning or icon standardization issues. This is becoming better as these technologies make more penetration, but this is still an issue that we're seeing today. So we did combat those limitations by, first of all, coming up with a naming convention for the technologies that wasn't exactly standard yet. So we looked across all the manufacturers and trims, and we found what the most common core concepts of that name was, and that's what we put on our website. And then we took that a step further, and we developed concepts for each technology that we believed would be vital for that driver to know when they sat in the driver's seat. So for example, if you got in a car that had adaptive cruise control, while our website wouldn't give information specifically on that manufacturer's flavor of adaptive cruise control, it wouldn't tell you that what the interval gap was specifically. Our website communicated that there was an interval gap, and that generally there were three, a short, medium, and long. So our website really gets to the core concepts of each technology and delivers that information in a clear, concise manner. And like I said earlier, consumers are welcome to dig into the website to get as much or as little that they want. So this is a home screen picture of our website right now. We do have a revolving back image that circulates 3 or 4 different images. So we also developed videos for the website. We have a guy and his dog, Rick and Scout, that do take on sort of the front and center of each technology, and we have a video for Rick and Scout where they communicate about the technology in a 2 to 3 minute video, and I'm actually going to go ahead and play one for you guys today.
Buckled in, Scout's buckled in, ready to back down the truck. First. Now watch right here. If they shift in the reverse, backup camera speed is activated. Sometimes the monitor will be right here in my rear view mirror. Pretty cool, huh? All clear, right, Scout? Oh, looks like somebody left their toy behind. Scout? Scout's toy, a cat, or even a child might be difficult to see over my shoulder. but not for the camera, even at night. And that's one good reason why backup cameras are becoming standard over the next several years on all new cars. New things to remember. It's always a good idea to walk around the car before you drive. These cameras might help, but are never a substitute for looking behind you and in your mirrors. You might see things they don't. Additionally, backup cameras may not work when sunlight shines directly into the lens. And last, the camera lens can get dirty from mud or snow, so keep it clean. Thanks, Scout. Good work. Instead of cameras, some cars use backup sensors. A radar device makes a beep, not a bark, as you get closer to objects. The closer the car gets, the faster it beeps. Your car might also come with a rear cross traffic alert system. This is amazing. Say you're backing out of a parking space. The monitor says you're all clear. But what if a car is approaching from the left or right? The rear cross traffic alert system uses sensors to warn you of cross traffic when backing up. You'll either hear a beep or see a warning light on the monitor. It can detect pedestrians, but not always. Great technology. But nothing is as good as these. That's why I always check my mirrors and behind me. Right to left. Right, Scout? Good girl. Maybe you want a treat. Like the rest of the world, car technology is changing really fast. Read your owner's manual. It's not a bestseller. You'll be amazed by all the great info inside. You are your car's best safety feature. No more. Drive safer. Visit mycardoeswhat.org.
So that was just a quick version of our backup camera video that we have online. We do have Rick and Scout videos for about any technology, and they're accessible to anybody that's able to get on the website. We also have quick downloadable quick guides that you're able to print off and use as you need. We have those for pretty much all of our technologies. And then finally, we did see the importance of targeting a very unique generation and audience with interactive games and apps. So we have a Facebook game that's called Which Dashboard Icon Are You Today? Sort of the Huffington Post type of game. And then we have an actual app game that is a dashboard. It takes place in a consumer sort of auto show, and you reset the pods, so to speak. It's targeted for more of those that might be interested in the gaming world, but it does have quite an educational component to it as we weave in content about all of the technologies. And so that's in the right-hand corner. That's free and downloadable as well. So all of this content went into the mycardoeswhat.org campaign. We did launch in October of 2015, and our launch was attended by the Secretary of Transportation and the Administrator of NHTSA back in 2015. So we're very honored to have both of them as part of our live launch in Washington, D.C. So our strategy was reaching consumers when they're thinking about driving. So we had some gas station toppers, we had gas station television, we had an ad the day of our launch in USA Today, we were at convenience stores, gas stations, that sort of thing. We had a very significant social media presence. And all of this led to an early success in the first year of achieving 2.6 billion media impressions within our first year of the launch. And I'm excited to say that we actually have achieved over 6 billion media impressions to date. But in that first year, after our early success, we saw the importance to have higher engagement goals. So this meant more focused and targeted engagement to specific audiences. And one of those audiences that we did identify were our drivers, our recent generation of drivers that were just getting on the road, or maybe even younger, that would be coming up within the next 5 to 10 years. So we strategized as a group on what would be the most effective way to reach that group of drivers and soon-to-be drivers. And one of the ways that we came together and brainstormed was the University of Iowa Mobile Museum. This is a unique opportunity that's at the University of Iowa. It is out of our Vice President of Research's office, and it includes a number of exhibits that focus on research at the University of Iowa. And we saw the perfect opportunity and fit for SaferSim and MyCarDoesWhat to come partner together because we saw this as a very unique opportunity to engage younger drivers and the soon-to-be drivers. The majority of our media to date was push media, and we saw this as the opportunity to pull folks in at various unique strategic events. And the Mobile Museum also has a very unique fit that it frequently attends high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools to engage with younger students as well. So the Mobile Museum, at a large level, inspires visitors to understand the world by focusing on the cutting-edge research that's at the university, and includes one-of-a-kind artifacts and interactive digital media to Iowa's communities statewide. So like I said earlier, we saw the opportunity to partner to take our mini sim, My Car Does What, and the Mobile Museum, add all of these things together, and what do you get? You get outreach in STEM and a traveling mini sim. The picture that I have on screen is a picture of our mini sim that is on the exterior of the Mobile Museum. During this first season, last season, we did actually have an interactive exhibit too that I'll get to in a minute. So like I said earlier, we wanted to provide a dynamic user experience. So that involved not only the mini sim as an opportunity for simulation to our soon-to-be drivers and our younger population, but also the opportunity to educate that younger group about the technologies and about My Car Does What. We did find in our research that many of these kids actually had heard about the technology, but this actually provided another way to teach them and educate them about technology. And I'm excited to say that much of our content has made its way into driver's education curriculums across the state of Iowa and even across the U.S. as well. We had a periodic table of automobile safety features where inside the museum our viewers would see a very large touch screen, and they would be able to actually interact and touch the technologies on the periodic table and get more information about each safety feature. We also did have a little quiz section about the technologies, and it resembled the National Consumer Survey questions, like that ABS question that I had at the beginning of the presentation. And then we had a link to our videos, and finally a way to connect with us on our Facebook and Twitter, as we knew that this sort of generation are pretty significant social media users. So going back to the outside of the Mobile Museum, so our idea was that we wanted to have two ways to reinforce the education about the technologies. So we had some of your more traditional educational tools that are inside. The idea is that then your user could come outside and actually get the opportunity to drive on a virtual environment, the backup camera, the forward collision warning, and the lane departure warning. These were our three first technologies, and I'll get to a little bit more later on where we'll be going in the future. But we saw these as given this was our first year, we wanted to make sure that the technologies we selected made sense for the type of simulator that we had. As you'll see here, you can't see it in this picture, but our pedals are down below. So this was sort of more of a standing simulator. So I'll get into a little bit later about that. On the left side of the screen is the tablet that was used to start each scenario as well. So the first technology that I mentioned was the backup camera, and so I have just a small example of the screen that our users would have seen during their simulation experience. Again, to reinforce that educational component, and specifically we realized that many of these viewers, especially the younger crowd, they may not actually have ever driven this technology. They may have been too young or don't have their license or what have you. So we wanted to get the education process started early. So we again reinforced the idea of what the technology was and a quick three-step of how to use it. So for the example of backup camera, the first screen was a basic definition of backup camera. The second screen and the subsequent screens walked you through what you would do if you were using the backup camera. So look, shift, and then check as you are backing up. And then finally, the fifth screen is just telling the user that the simulation is about to begin. So we did the same sort of concept with the forward collision warning. Again, gave a very basic definition of forward collision warning, and then gave a few screens that told you how you would interact with that technology. So in this scenario, scan the road ahead, be alert, and prepare to brake. And then again, the warning that, or the note that the simulation is about to begin. And finally, lane departure warning, we gave the basic definition and then walked through how the user would expect to use it very generally. And again, this matches very closely with what our mycardoeswhat.org would be, what kind of type of content and messages that we'd be pushing out that way. Again, it's a very high level concept idea of the technology, so that if you got into any, if you found yourself behind the wheel of any make or model, you would have a very general idea of what to expect and how you might interact with that technology. This is a picture of a close-up of what our viewer was seeing right as they were beginning to start the simulation, their simulation drive. So each of those three technologies did have a short drive that the user could experience, the forward collision warning, the backup camera, or the lane departure warning. What were our achievements in our very first year? Well, we had an attendance of over 31,000 visitors. We visited 36 of the counties in Iowa. The hours open were 702 hours. The Mobile Museum traveled over 9,000 miles and attended 86 events, the majority of which events were with high school and middle school age students. And so one other component that we had part of this outreach was that staff from NADS would attend at specific events, such as the state fair. We had many of the mini-sim staff that were there and able to talk to visitors about not only the mini-sim, but about NADS in general. And again, to just give the opportunity to start that conversation about STEM research and areas that young students can get into. So this on screen is a picture of, I think, high school age students checking out the simulator. You can see the pedals on the bottom there. You can see the screen up top, and then, of course, the controls. And then one very, very exciting achievement that we are just thrilled to say is that after such a successful year in the mini-sim or in the UI Mobile Museum, we've actually found a permanent presence with the Mobile Museum going forward. And we did get a lot of feedback that very first year from the viewers, from the students, from people that use the mini-sim and that got the chance to experience. For example, one of the great pieces of feedback we got was from the bike ride across Iowa, RAGBRAI. Many of those riders, once they got into the town where the UI Mobile Museum was at, they experienced the simulator and they gave a lot of feedback about they would love to see some type of scenarios that involved bicyclists. And they gave a lot of feedback about they believe that this could be a great educational metric to allow drivers and anybody really to interact with bicyclists and pedestrians on a simulator and understand the importance of driving safety and recognizing and being aware of those other roadway users. So that is the end of my presentation. Another picture I have on here is with our Herky. He is driving our mini sim on the UI Mobile Museum, and it looks like he might have crashed. But with that, I will go ahead and before we open it up for questions, if Dan is still there, is there anything that Dan might want to add? Okay. Well, Jacob, I think that's it on my end. If we want to open it up for questions and discussion.
Yeah, Ashley, great presentation. Yeah, let's open up the chat for any questions or comments. So if any of the participants here do have a question they would like to ask, feel free to type it in the chat box. And so we have a few attendees typing some questions here. And Sue Chrysler asked the first question. You mentioned permanent mini museum, or the mini museum at the mobile museum. Are they planning on keeping the same demos?
No, we're actually going to be adding scenarios. We are looking into adding that bicyclist pedestrian scenario with the vehicle operator. And we're going to be exploring also other technologies that make sense in this sort of stand-up scenario, stand-up mini sim. So yeah, we are very excited to add on new technologies. And one great thing that we realized about the mini sim is that we can easily sort of craft those as the years go by, and certainly as technologies come on board or as cars change.
Okay, and Jareen Denning asked, so she works with the ATV simulator on campus, and they are thinking about an ATV safety website. Would they be able to talk to you about the research you put into website development?
Absolutely, yes.
And Doreen, I can send you an email afterwards and copy Ashley on it so it can just connect you guys that way. Okay, so Dawn asks, what is the next phase for My Car Does What?
So the next phase for My Card is What is that we will be looking into, we'll be broadening our scope a bit. We did just finish up um, sort of the timeline that we were under for our original funding. So we're going to be getting into higher levels of automation, automated vehicles, connected technology, vehicle technologies that really deliver safety to its occupants and its drivers. So we will be looking for that, launching that in April or May or so. So stay tuned and follow our My Card Is What outlets, Twitter and Facebook, and we will have sort of a sprint launch once that new website is up and running.
Ashley, I have a question. How do you think the best, or what's the best way to reach older drivers? I know the older drivers might, this technology might be able to help them drive longer or be safer, but I know, they're not really using the social media like the younger crowd or, the K through 12 people. So how do you think you can reach, some of the older population?
One thing that we've done with My Card Is What is we actually partnered with the state DOT. We launched a pilot with the state of Iowa, and we have content in the DMV centers. So there's digital screens, and most of your state DMVs are actually moving towards digital screens. So we have My Card Is What on their sort of rolling slideshow, but then also the state DMV allowed us to put an insert into their registration renewals that they send out once a year to remind drivers to renew their plates or license. And I have to say, we've actually gotten quite a bit of calls from the older population specifically that have received our insert and just wanted more information about My Card Is What or about where they can find out about these technologies. Our insert was a very highly graphical insert, not very big at all, not much larger than, a bookmark or so, but we just were putting the message out there that there is a resource about these technologies, and if they have them, to go to that website or to feel free to call somebody on the campaign. And like I said earlier, the majority of the calls I've gotten are from folks that received our insert and they saw a similar name, backup camera, forward collision warning, and they knew they had it in their vehicle. They just didn't know how it worked effectively or where they could even begin to get information. So I think that's been one of the most surprising ways that we've connected with that population specifically. Additionally, we are seeing that the Facebook users are trending a little bit older. We've noticed that each social media platform has a very sort of unique niche that it fills, and Facebook is trending older and older as the years go by.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else have any other questions or comments? Okay, so I think we will wrap it up there. Thanks again for the presentation, Ashley. If anyone does have any questions or if they think of anything in the meantime, I'm going to put my email address in the chat box so you can send me an email and I will um, send your information to the right people. Other than that, this recording will be up on the Safer Sim YouTube channel, hopefully within 1 or 2 days. So feel free to watch it or share it with any of your colleagues. So I guess we will conclude this webinar. Thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you at our next webinars.
Thank you.
Thanks.